Hello and welcome. I am very sorry for the delay in getting started this evening. If you've been waiting, I do apologise. I was being a bit of an idiot when it came to using Google Hangouts. It's been a while and I think they've changed a few things. Either that or I just forgotten how to do it. So anyway, I'm here now and oops, my changed a few things. My Nexus is repeating what I've just said. So there you go. That's the hazards of having too many devices. And don't we all have that as a problem in our lives these days? So today's workshop is, it's a replay of a workshop that I did at the Addaction conference earlier this week on Monday the 22nd, 21st of October. 21st of November, I don't know what day it is. Yeah, Monday the 21st of November, I did this hour workshop in the afternoon at the Addaction conference to a room of addiction professionals, and the workshop went really well. They seemed to really enjoy it. I had really positive feedback at the end, and so I decided about halfway through doing the workshop that I would replay it as a workshop tonight to widen the audience a little bit. So I hope that you're going to get a lot of value from this workshop this evening. There's a lot of information I'm going to hit you with in a minute. I've got some slides to show you, so you won't have to be looking at me the whole time. I think I'll probably end up little square in the corner, but there'll be slides for you to watch, so you don't have to keep looking at my face. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about my background and how I came to learn these lessons that I'm about to share with you, and also some of the concepts and practices that helped me so much in my own recovery journey. And I will be sharing, I will be awarding a prize of a copy of my book to one lucky participant. Depending on if anybody's online. I don't know if anybody is live. I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell if anybody is live. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So without any further ado then, I'm going to get my screen share up and I'm going to start going through the slides. Before I do that, I'm just going to grab my herbal tea and have a drink. I drink herbal tea out of pint glasses, so it's a lager glass, but it's herbal tea. There's no lager in it. And it's very hot. So let's get on with the slides. So I'm going to just get my PowerPoint presentation up and let's get started. So the presentation that we're looking at today is called Recovery Through Yoga with Esther Nagel, and that is, of course, me. So the subtitle is A Path to Joyful Recovery, Deep Connection and Authentic Living, and that is essentially what I think yoga has given me and what it can give to you as well. And the power of yoga, and hopefully which I will be able to convey to you, is quite astonishing when you get to understand just how it works. So we're going to move into the main presentation now. So here's the book that I'm going to be giving to you, or giving away at the end of the presentation. It's called Bent Back into Shape, Beating Addiction Through Yoga. And it's my book. It's my story. It's partly my story, and it's also partly a sort of self-help book. So, you know, if you're battling with addiction, if you know somebody that is, it can really help you. I've had reviews from people who are not battling with addiction who've said it have helped them as well. So it's not just beneficial for people who need help with addiction, because the personal growth that's involved in yoga, the personal growth that we can get from yoga is obviously there for everyone. It's not just for people with addictions. It just is one of the benefits of it, that it helps with that. So this is me then. So a little bit of an introduction to me. I battled with alcohol dependence for about 20 years. From about the age of 20, I started using alcohol as a way to hide from my emotions. There were lots of emotions that I needed to hide from, and they were tended to be guilt and shame and self-loathing and that kind of emotion. You know, the ones that we really don't like having to deal with. And I didn't know how to deal with these horrible negative emotions that I felt about myself, so I got drunk, very drunk. Drinking helped me to be happy and confident, or helped me to pretend to be happy and confident. I wasn't happy and confident. I don't really remember a time when I ever really was happy and confident, and alcohol helped me to pretend that I was, and to act like I was, and to talk to people as if I was. So from the girl who couldn't talk to boys she fancied and would turn into a blithering idiot if one of them was within so much as 50 yards of her, then alcohol was very helpful in that respect. And over time, this way of dealing with life just became my normal. I didn't even question it. I just didn't even think. I never stopped to think, oh, I did, but I kind of beat down those emotions, those thoughts, that there was anything wrong in what I was doing. As an awful lot of people with alcohol problems or drug problems do, I made sure my social circle was full of people who seemed to exhibit the same type of behavior as me. So my behavior seemed normal. It seemed to be perfectly acceptable. Eventually, though, you can't carry on like this. And eventually I had a breakdown. But my breakdown actually led me to a breakthrough. I began yoga teacher training. I had given up my job in 2013 after a horrendous 8 months. The whole of the year was, I now think, a message from the divine, from God, from the universe, that I needed to do something different with my life, because the whole of 2013 seemed to be about trying to break me. And that's how it felt. It felt like every day I would wake up and think, what is going to happen today? And, you know, if there wasn't a colossal disaster, it was a good day. But I was crumbling under the weight of the colossal disasters that were happening in my life that year. And eventually I reached a point where I couldn't deal with anything anymore, and the only thing that I could let go of that was causing me stress was my job. So I got rid of my job. 7 weeks into a nearly £30,000 a year job, I phoned up the HR department in floods of tears, barely able to get a coherent sentence out, and told them I couldn't go back ever again. And they were very good, and they let me go without making me work my notice or repay any of the pay they'd given me. They were very kind to me. So from this breakthrough, I decided that now was a really good time to pursue my interest in yoga teacher training, which I thought about doing for a very long time, and had never been able to find the time or the money or the childcare. There had always been something stopping me being able to do it. But now I had no money, but I managed to get a loan for it, and I managed to find the time, and I had plenty of motivation because I knew I needed to change. So this was a 13-month yoga teacher training, but within the first 7 months, I experienced a massive shift in everything about my life. And those first 7 months of yoga teacher training was roughly the equivalent of several years of very good therapy. Because after 7 months of this training, I was able to wake up one morning, decide I was never drinking again, and I haven't since. And that was over 2 years ago. So this yoga teacher training did incredible things to me. It shifted things in me. It helped me release and let go of years and years and years and years of negative patterns, negative thoughts, negative behaviors. And it helped me to give up alcohol, which nothing had been able to do at that point. Incidentally, and I often forget to tell people this, the same day, that very same day, I also quit smoking. And I was a fairly heavy smoking asthmatic since the age of 17. So this was quite a big deal for me to give up smoking. I don't know why I don't talk about it more, really. I should. But the drinking is the one that really, really changed my life. It really impacted on how I feel about myself. So my soberversary is the 12th of October 2014. That's the last day I woke up with a hangover. The first day, the day I decided I was never going to drink again, that I'd actually got to a point where I was fully emotionally sober, was the following month after a wedding that I'd chosen to drink elderflower cordial through. But that 12th of October is the last day that I ever encountered a hangover, and hopefully ever again. I'm always very wary of sounding too cocky when I say I'm fully quit, but yeah, hopefully never again. I'm going back there. So this new sober me, I've got a whole new way of viewing myself and my life. I still have many days when I don't feel great. I still have many days when I'm frustrated with myself and I get impatient with myself, but I don't I don't see myself the same as I used to. I see myself as a far more capable, competent, happy, sorted together, grounded person than I ever was before. And I have considerably more resilience than I used to have. And there has been no hint of relapse in those 2 years. Not even Brexit or Trump becoming president has beaten me. So I feel quite strong after the rocks that 2016 has thrown at us all. The fact that I'm still sober is quite an achievement, I think. I think 2016 has been my testing year on many levels, and I feel like I'm doing okay. So this new sobriety gave me my dharma, my mission in life, and that is to help people. I really want to help other people to see how yoga can help them to understand that yoga is more than just getting a bendy body, sitting on the floor chanting and meditating. Those are parts of it, and they are important parts of it, but they are not all there is to yoga. So the amazing power of yoga. This is my favorite picture of me, my before and after picture, and this is such a great a real representation of not just the physical changes in me, but the emotional changes in me. I think that me on the left, as I'm looking at it, I don't know how it looks to you, on the left I suspect, that really sums up how I used to feel, how I used to look on the inside as well as on the outside. I was a mess. I'm very drunk there, very stoned, a real mess, emotionally wasted as well as physically wasted. And on the other side, I mean, I kind of feel that happy glow most of the time. This enlarging picture in the workshop on Monday was quite scary because it was being projected onto a big screen, so that was not pleasant for me to see myself in that size. This is more bearable. So the point then of today's webinar is how yoga can lead us to recovery. Now, I know that a lot of people know that yoga is used in recovery as a way of relaxing and as a way of helping people to learn meditative practices and to just get calm and at peace a little. But I want to show you how yoga can be so much more than that. So if you will join me on this path to recovery. So yoga is conscious living. It's not just an exercise class or meditation. It's about how we live. It's about how we think. It's about how we are. It's about being who we are right now. Who are you right now? And what are you doing right now? Where are you right now? Mentally, physically, spiritually. And how can you become a better person in the next minute? What can you do to become better? People talk about mindfulness as something separate from yoga, but yoga is mindfulness. If you're living a conscious yogic life, you're living mindfully. Buddhist mindfulness has different practices, but yoga is mindfulness. And a regular yoga practice will instill into you this mindful living. So you become more conscious, more aware of every single moment. Yoga is a holistic practice. So it looks at the physical and the mental as being part of part of the whole thing. We don't look at physical health separate from mental health. You can't separate the two. Mental wellness leads to physical wellness, and physical wellness and mental wellness go hand in hand together. We also take into account spiritual well-being as well, and that doesn't mean you have to believe in a God. You don't have to have any religious affiliations to be a spiritual person. We're all spiritual beings. It's just how you choose to express that, and it took me a very long time to understand that. So we need mind, body, and balance and spirit in balance. It's all about balance. Everything is about balance. When everything is in balance, we're well. And a definition of yoga that comes from one of the ancient yoga texts, the name has just slipped out of my head for a second, I'm sure I'll remember it later, but that yoga is harmonious and balanced state of equanimity or equipoise at all levels. So yoga isn't something you do. Yoga is a way of being. You are yoga when you are in balance, when you are at ease, when your body, your mind, and your spirit are in balance. That is yoga. Yoga is not something you do in the sports center on a Tuesday night, which is where I started going. And one thing that I've realized over the last 2 years, is that the spiritual path that we follow, either through yoga or through any other spiritual path, has an awful lot of similarities between this path to recovery. There's a lot around acceptance, self-discovery, forgiveness, gratitude. A lot of the same concepts that come up in, say, the 12 steps are also very relevant in other spiritual practices. The 12 steps are a very spiritually based concept, as you know. There is that idea of surrendering to the higher power in the 12 steps, and there are a lot of the ways that people who follow the 12 steps get there are there's a lot of crossover between yoga and the 12 steps. So I wanted to talk very briefly about yoga and mental health. There's a lot I've seen on Facebook at the moment around suicide awareness and mental health awareness. It's Mental Health Awareness Day recently, and there's a lot of discussion at the moment in the media and in various circles around mental health and mental illness and the difference between the two, and what we can do to promote better mental health in people, and how we can help people to talk about mental illness in a way that isn't scary and stigmatizing. And it's very important that we take care of our mental health, because when we don't, all kinds of other problems can arise. I'm just going to cancel that call. One sec.
Hello, your call can't be.
That's typical, isn't it? I think that was probably a cold calling, because they hung up before the answer machine kicked in. So yoga and mental health, then I've lost my train of thought, but so yoga is all about bringing the mind and body into balance. And in yoga, there's this concept known as adi vyadi, which is saying that the mind and the body work together, and it's talking about how many physical health conditions actually originate up here in the mind. An awful lot of the very, very common health complaints that we have in the Western world are stress related. If we could all stop being so stressed, we would see things like asthma, IBS, heart problems, blood pressure problems, diabetes, just to name a few, which are so stress related. And it is an awful lot of things start in the mind. So if we can bring the mind and body into balance and calm the mind down and release the physical tension from the body, we find ourselves a lot healthier and happier. Yoga can balance the emotions and the nervous system. It's incredibly powerful for that. Without that ability of yoga, I would probably still be drinking, because it helped me to really balance myself out. It helped me to calm myself down. It helped me to learn how to be with my emotions instead of drowning them in wine. It helped me to not get so stressed, just not let things get to me quite so much. Through yoga, we can develop healthier psychological attitudes. So instead of living with a victim mentality, for example, and feeling like the world is out to get us, we can develop an attitude of gratitude, for example. We can live with a more positive state of mind and just generally be more optimistic, more positive. And studies have shown that people who have a more positive outlook on life tend to be healthier physically and mentally. And I don't think that anybody would actually be that surprised to learn that positive people are healthier, because it is a healthier attitude to have. Yoga teaches contemplation, relaxation, and meditation, which is some of the more widely understood aspects of yoga. And through those, we can learn to focus and quieten our mind, to release the tension that we might be carrying around with us in our mind and in our body, and get some stillness in our heads, in our minds. We live in such a busy, overstimulating world, where it's 24 hours a day, something going on. It's as if we've forgotten how to just be. We've lost that ability to just be, to just sit and be. And I'm as guilty of that as the next person. I've embraced 21st century living. I have 4 devices that I can connect to the internet in, and 3 of them are in this room right now, and I have a telephone there, as you know. So we have all these things around us that keep us constantly connected to the outside world and disconnected from ourselves. And it is so easy to turn to a distraction. You know, if you've got lots of stuff on your mind, you could turn to Facebook and just soothe yourself with dancing cats or whatever it is that you're looking at. But that doesn't give your mind that space that you need to process whatever it is that you're dealing with at the time. So yoga gives us that space and that peace and quiet to just deal with whatever is going on in our minds that are causing us distress. And yoga also helps to develop our spiritual connection and our awareness. The point of yoga is, in the truest sense of the practice of yoga, is to help us to evolve our spiritual side to a point where we can become one with the divine. And I'm never entirely too sure how to describe that way, but it's whatever you identify it as. You may call it God, you may call it universe, you may call it source, you may call it higher power, you may call it rock and roll. Whatever it is that you feel that spiritual connection with, it's that spiritual connection for you. And yoga helps to develop that connection to that bigger thing that we're all connected to. And I think that is one of its most important roles for us now in this super connected world. We are increasingly disconnected from our spiritual side, and I'm seeing a rise in people talking about spiritual practices, and the self-help books, self-help aisles, shelves in bookshops are full of books, but we still seem to be disconnected in some way. So I think there's a powerful work there for yoga to do in that, but that's a whole other webinar, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about now. Yoga can also help to relieve suffering and pain. So whether that be mental or physical pain, yoga can really help with that. It can give us a sort of a bit of a separation from our pain. It can give us a way to process our pain. And there have been studies that show that people with a regular yoga practice actually report less physical pain. Whether that's because the body is just functioning better or the mindfulness of the practice, I'm not sure how it works, but it does. I think it's to do with the calming of the nervous system. I think it all comes down to the nervous system and how it balances the nervous system. So I don't know. I'm sure I'll find out one day. So when I began my teacher training, I was told Swami Gitananda's rules of yoga. Now, Swami Gitananda is the guru whose teachings I was trained in. And my teacher had studied under his wife, had been trained by his wife, Swami Gitananda, attained samadhi, and left his body 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. So my teacher trained under his wife, and she was taught these through rules of yoga. And I think that they are incredibly good rules for a recovery path as well as yoga. So they don't judge, don't compare, and don't beat yourself up. And if you are in recovery, if you are in addiction, if you know somebody who's in addiction or in recovery, then I'm sure that you can see why those are such good rules to bear in mind for recovery. In addiction, beating yourself up is almost a daily practice, an hourly practice. It would be the reason why I would drink, and then it would be what happened when I drank as well. I would drink because I'd spent the day telling myself I was awful, and then once I was drunk enough, I would tell myself I was awful because I was so drunk. So it was one of these horrible self-feeding monsters that lived inside me. And don't judge, in all aspects of life. We shouldn't judge other people because everyone is living their own lives, and we can't know what has led another person to where they are in life. And the only person whose lives we should be concerned with are our own and the people who we directly impact. So, we have to be concerned for other people, but we shouldn't judge other people. And don't compare, don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't look at somebody else and think that they're better than you. Don't look at somebody else and think that you're better than them, because the chances are that neither of those things are true. You may be better than somebody at something else, at I don't know, playing football. They may be better than you at cooking. We've all got our good things and our bad things. You are not a better person than somebody else, and they are not better than you. You're just you, and they are them. And that's all you can really look at. So I love these 3 rules. I think they're very, very powerful rules. My motto, I call them rules. That was what I was called. That's what I was told. But I just think they're good things to bear in mind. And when you begin to be more aware of your thoughts through your yoga practice, you start to notice how much you do these things. It can be a real eye-opener. And once you start to be aware of doing these things, you can change that and stop doing them so that you can become a happier person. So yoga is all about helping you to become a better you. And how does it do that? So there are 8 limbs of yoga. In traditional Ashtanga yoga is based on the 8 limbs of yoga by Maharishi Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras many thousands of years ago. And they are what's the word I want? I've forgotten the word now, but it's the sort of the yoga scripture. That and the Bhagavad Gita, I think, are the yoga scriptures to read. If you read those 2, then you're okay. So the 8 limbs of yoga are yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama. Yama is the don't do that. Niyama is the you really should do this. Asana are the physical postures. And pranayama is breath control. We then got pratyahara, which is focus. Dharana, which is withdrawal of the senses. So that's when you can focus to such a point that the sensory information around you doesn't really register with you. It doesn't interfere with your inner stillness. Dhyana, which is a state of meditation. It's when you retain that focus, that sensory withdrawal, and you're kind of on another plane. And then samadhi is enlightenment. It's that state, that's the ultimate aim of these yoga of yoga, is to attain samadhi, which is moksha and freedom. Now, this yoga comes out of the Hindu tradition, and so there's a belief in the reincarnation of the soul in different bodies. So when you achieve samadhi, you are then freed from that cycle of birth and death and birth and death and the karmic patterns that follow you through that cycle of birth and death. The first four are called the outer yoga, so they are concerned with the body, and the outer as in this body that our soul lives in. So this is the outer, and the bottom four are the antaranga, which is the inner yoga. So this is all about when we get inward and we're just concerned with what is going on at us at a soul level. And pratyahara, which is the concentration, is that kind. It's like a bridge between the two. So through pranayama, through breath, we can develop that concentration, which helps us to cross that bridge into the inner yoga. So yama are how we interact with the world and ourselves, and you'll be able to see that these are actually very, very powerful concepts to think about in recovery. So ahimsa is non-violence. Now, when we're in addiction, and addiction is terrible violence against ourselves. It's physical violence if we are consuming harmful substances, and there's a mental violence that goes on as well in terms of the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we treat ourselves, the way that we behave to others as well. I'm very conscious of the fact that today is the International Day to I can't remember the proper name of it, but it's about ending violence against women. Now, there's a very strong link between domestic violence and alcoholism in particular, I think, and addiction in general, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. There's a very strong link between addiction and violence, and addiction and domestic violence. That's a whole other, that's a whole in-depth topic of conversation in itself, how violence and addiction go hand in hand. There's so much that can be discussed there. But on a personal level, you know, if we try and think about how are we harming ourselves physically and mentally in our addiction, and how can we make tiny little changes to stop ourselves doing that? You know, it could be that we try and just curb that voice that tells us we're worthless, or that tells us that we don't deserve any better than this. Now, it's not easy to do that, and I'm not saying on any level that this is an easy path. But if we can start to implement this ahimsa, this non-violence, in the way that we interact with ourselves and others, it can change things dramatically. Satya is truthfulness, and addiction is renowned for turning good people into liars. And we lie to ourselves, we lie to other people. We will go to extraordinary lengths to hide the truth of who we are. We hide from ourselves, we're hiding from the truth of who we are, and we're hiding the truth of who we are from the people around us. I used to hide the amount of cider cans that I had to throw out. You know, instead of putting them in my clear recycling bag, I would put them in a black bag for rubbish rather than have them recycled. I remember I would hide cans. I'd hide bags around the back of my house and put them out for the bin men in smaller amounts because I was trying to hide that. I'm sure my bin men had a far clearer indication of what was going on with me than I did at the time, because they saw these big, huge recycling bags full of cider cans, wine bottles being thrown out every week. They knew, and I knew as well, but I was trying to hide it. My friends, my closest friends, only really realized the truth of my drinking habits once I stopped and then started talking honestly about it, which was quite a revelation. I assumed they all knew as much as I did, and they probably did know as much as I did, because I was colossally in denial about how bad I actually was. Again, I think I only really admitted it to myself once I was able to stop. So that's an interesting journey in itself. Asteya is not stealing, and I think when we are in addiction, we might steal. I mean, there's obviously there's the known links between addiction and petty crime, where people have to steal in order to be able to afford to buy their substances. That's a whole big rant on the war of drugs, which I might do as a webinar one day. But what I want to talk about here is about what we steal from ourselves and what we steal from others, on a more interpersonal way, where we steal our happiness, we're stealing our future, we're stealing our positive emotions, we're stealing our chance of being who we're meant to be, who we truly are. And I know, as an alcoholic single mother, I stole a lot from my children in ways that I would promise to do something with them at the weekend, but then I'd get drunk on Friday night and I wouldn't be able to do what I promised the following day, or it would be several hours until I could get myself out of the house, for example. So we steal things. It's not just about, actually physically taking somebody else's possessions. There are other ways to steal from people. Brahmacharya is control of desires. So that's a fairly obvious one when you're talking about addiction. If you can control that urge, control those urges, control those cravings, then you're going to have a bit more success, a lot more success at cracking your addiction. And yoga helps us, yoga gives us a huge toolbox of things of practices that we can do to help us in that control of desires, in that Brahmacharya practice. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those in a little while. Aparigraha is non-covetousness, and that's around not wanting what other people have, which is connected to control of desires. And it might be that, we look at, we compare, it's that comparing, from those three rules from earlier on, we compare our lives to other people's. And if we look at our lives to other people's lives and our lives don't look very good in comparison, that fuels that self-loathing, that unhappiness, that feeling that, we are not worthy, and that can fuel the addiction. So if we try and just be more comfortable with what we've got, then we don't have to do that comparison of others. So niyamas are all about becoming the best versions we can of ourselves. And these are things like cleanliness. So looking at what our living environment is like, how do we look after our bodies, what on the inside as well as the outside. So what are we putting into our bodies? Are we feeding it junk food? Are we feeding it high sugar, lots of sugar, or are we drinking lots of water, eating lots of vegetables and eating healthily? How are we eating? What thoughts are going on in our head as well? Are those thoughts clean? And I'm not just talking about, dirty thoughts like we're thinking about sex, but are they clean, healthy thoughts rather than thoughts full of just the dirtiness of life, just negativity and a gloomy sort of outlook. So clean thoughts are positive, happy thoughts. Santosha is contentment, and that is accepting where you are. And I know that in the 12 steps, one of the very early steps is around accepting where you are, who you are right now in this moment, accepting how your life is, because you might want it to be different, but you have to accept where you are now and be honest with yourself about where you are now and be okay with that, because this is where you are, and where you are now can lead you to somewhere better. But be accepting of where you are right now. Be content, because if you're content with where you are, then that stops feeding those monsters that live in your head, those demons that feed on negative thinking. So if you can adopt this contentment, even if your life isn't what you'd like it to be, accept where you are, and then that stops that negative sort of, oh, your life is terrible voices that you might get in your head, because your life isn't terrible. Your life is just where it is. It's what it is. And from that place of contentment, you can then look more positively towards, what can I do now to be even more content? It's a stepping stone. Tapas is discipline. Now, if you've ever tried to give up drinking or smoking or anything else, if you've ever tried to instill a new habit in yourself or to give up an existing habit, you'll know it takes discipline. And that's hard. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. I have never been very good at self-discipline. It's still something I struggle with, and I'm completely honest there that I might teach this stuff, but I'm still learning it as well. But tapas is discipline. Now, I'm sure I don't need to explain why discipline is powerful on the road to recovery. Every day that you can get to the end of that day and say, I've done another day, that's amazing. That is an amazing achievement. And that discipline that helps you to get that can help you to get anything else you need and want in your life as well. Swadhyaya is self-study, and that's a really powerful tool in personal growth. It's an essential tool for personal growth. We can't change anything until we become aware of what it is and where it is and why it is and all those other questions that we might ask. Really getting to know yourself, really getting to understand yourself is a phenomenally powerful tool in moving forward. It's not easy. It takes discipline, and it can be fantastically difficult to do sometimes. It can mean digging stuff up that you hadn't thought about, and you've buried stuff that you've buried and drowned in wine or cigarettes or chocolate or drugs. Can all come out when you start looking at yourself, and you do need to find strategies to deal with things sometimes, and it might mean that you need to go and see somebody to help you deal with those practices. At a very deep level, yoga offers you the tools to deal with all those, but you will need help to deal with that. You'll need someone to share that with. But it is a phenomenally powerful tool. I understand myself so much better, and it really helps me to kind of get over myself sometimes. And then Ishwara Pranidhana is the surrender. Surrender to the divine. Accept that we can do what we can do, but ultimately we can't control the outcome of anything that happens in our life. You know, I can do this webinar tonight. I'm doing this webinar the best I can do it tonight. I can't control if anybody's going to watch it. I can't control what you're going to think of it if you're going to watch it. I can't control if it's going to help you or not. All I can do is do this webinar, do it the best I can, and then allow it to do what it will where it reaches. And I am happy with that. I know that that is the way it's got to be. That's the only way. I can't force this webinar on anybody. All I can do is provide it, and that's the essence of surrender. And it's about that takes away this feeling of we need to control everything. that feeling that we need to control everything is so debilitating. We think it's empowering to be in control of everything, but it is actually so debilitating. And it stops us achieving what we should be achieving because we're so busy worrying about the outcome that we don't look at the actions that we're taking. I didn't go into my yoga teacher training expecting to come out sober and with a passion for talking about recovery. I had absolutely no idea that that was going to happen. I went into yoga teacher training because I wanted to learn how to be a yoga teacher and because I thought that it was probably a good idea at the time given how I was feeling. I allowed it to do what it did, and it changed my life beyond all recognition. So you don't know where this surrender is going to take you. It's very powerful. I'm going to talk now about asana. Now, the asana is probably what most people know of as yoga. If you Google yoga and then go to the images, you will see a million pictures of people in asanas. Asanas are postures. And the traditional, original meaning of the word asana is just to sit. Because in ancient times when yoga was first conceived of as a practice, the people who were doing it were the can't remember the word now, but the wise man, the enlightened man who lived, the hermits who lived in caves in India, and they spent their days sitting and meditating and just being. And so they didn't need complicated postures. They just needed to be able to sit. So asana is essentially seat, a sit. It's a sit. Over the years, we've had to develop all these postures because modern life means that our bodies are not cut out for sitting for that much time. So all these postures that we do, the object of them, the point of them is not to get us flexible, to give us a thin, toned, flexible body. It's to enable us to sit and meditate for a very, very long time. All the other benefits are side of our added bonuses. So the asanas restore balance to the body. They touch different aspects of the nervous system. All the different systems of the body benefit from asanas. Through asanas, we train the body to recognize and release tension. We after postures in the yoga system that I was trained in, after every posture, we relax and we allow the body to relax for maybe 30 seconds. So the yoga class that I would teach wouldn't be a fast-moving, fast-paced, you come out with like film of sweat over you and aching muscles. It's all about putting tension in the body and then releasing it so that your body and your mind learns to release and recognize what tension feels like, which over time leads to better responses to stress and tension. Through we've got the healthy body, healthy mind, that holistic approach to health, that healthy body leads to a healthy mind and vice versa. And the postures, the asanas, also help to develop awareness of the body. Now, in addiction, we become quite disassociated from the body. We don't necessarily care for the body. We will put the physical health needs of the body to one side. You know, nobody wants to drink a bottle of wine every night. Nobody wants to be forced to smoke or to eat excessive amounts of sugar or to take lots of opioids, for example. So in order to do that, we disassociate ourselves from our physical, from our needs, from the body's needs. And so yoga helps to restore that awareness of the body. And through the asanas, we do develop strength and flexibility and adaptability in both body and mind. Oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button there. Now, pranayama is the breathing. It's controlled breathing. And pranayama to me was probably the most powerful aspect of what I learned in my yoga teacher training. So through pranayama, we develop focus and concentration. It helps us to slow down. It helps us to find that calm and that peace. It can calm and soothe the central nervous system. It's an amazingly powerful tool to calm the nervous system, and it brings us from this high stress state of mind to a much calmer, at peace state of mind. Pranayama improves the health and well-being of every single cell in the body. If you think that every single of the billions of cells that we have in our body needs oxygen, if we're not breathing in well enough, and if we're not releasing enough carbon dioxide with every breath, we are not taking in enough carbon dioxide, we are not releasing enough, we're not taking in enough oxygen, we're not releasing enough carbon dioxide, we're not nourishing our body as it should be nourished. Pranayama can help us to reduce blood pressure, tension, stress, and anxiety, and it can give us the skill of resilience. It can give us that strength, that inner strength, so that when difficult times come our way, we have a toolbox to develop. We have a toolbox to deal with them. We can get on, we can deal with the world, deal with life, and move on. And then pratyahara is that bridge between the inner and the outer. So that again helps us to develop focus and concentration. It teaches self-control. If you're sitting, if you're in that sitting position and you're just trying to stay focused on your breath, and your mind is trying to get you to go here and there, and oh, you've got to go and do this now, and oh, your back is hurting, you better get up because you shouldn't be sitting for this long. Your mind will try always to get you to do anything but sit still and focus on your breath. And when you're focusing on your breath and you keep going with that, you develop fantastic self-control and focus, and it enhances your connection to the spirit, to source, to the divine. It really connects you. So you're connecting inwardly, and you're also connecting to the bigger picture as well. We get that amazing stillness and space in our minds. When we get that stillness and space, oh, beautiful things happen, even if all you get is stillness and space. But the more we can free up space in our minds, the more we can allow in creativity and happiness and just a calmness that doesn't exist, that can't exist when our minds are full of so much noise. And there has also been research that shows that pratyahara, which is more commonly called meditation, can actually change neural pathways, and it changes the way our brain operates for the better. And this is particularly important for people with addictions, because addiction and the behavior of addiction, what an addiction will do to our brain, it damages neural pathways. And I'm not going to go into neurobiology now, but so addiction and the processes of addiction change and damage neural pathways. Well, pratyahara can create new neural pathways. It can rebuild neural pathways, and it can restore our brain functioning. I know I feel like I'm a lot cleverer now than I used to be. And that's a nice way to feel. It feels like my brain works better now than it used to. So we're going to go through some practical tools now. So the first one I'm going to show you is Sukha Pranayama. And Sukha Pranayama is just simple, easy breathing. So we're just going to bring the hands together. So this is the right hand. The right hand is dominant over the left. And then we're going to bring the thumbs together and just drop the hands into the lap. And then we're just going to take 3 deep breaths, breathing in for 6 seconds, breathing out for 6 seconds. So the breath is easy and slow and deep. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, out, in, out. Okay, that was Sukha Pranayama. It's equal length breath. It's easy. It shouldn't feel painful or strained. If 6 seconds is too much for you, you can start at 4 breath in, 4 breath out, and gradually increase that until you can get up to 6 seconds. So quiet sitting. Now we're going to do quiet sitting, and this is what most people would think of as meditation. We're just going to do it for a minute or two, but you can extend this to however long you want to extend it. So again, we put the hands in Yoga Mudra, which is this position with the right finger dominant, thumbs together. So we're creating a circuit here of energy. Drop the hands into the lap, close your eyes, and we're going to breathe through the nose, and we're just going to focus on the breath. So just keep the mind on the breath, breathing in and out slowly and equally. Same length in as out. Yeah, aim for 6 seconds, but if you can't manage 6 seconds, then just do 4 or 3, 5, whatever you can manage. And just aim to work up to 6. So as you're breathing in, I want you to notice your breath as it comes in through the nostrils. What does it feel like? Can you smell? What can you taste? What's the temperature like? Keep breathing slowly and deeply. And breathing out, notice the same things. Keep your mind on your breath. When the mind wanders, just bring it gently back to the breath. And we just keep breathing in and out, quietly focusing on the breath. And I'll just stop talking for a couple of moments. Then just slowly open the eyes. And now we're going to move on to another practice, which is called throwing out. So for this one, I'm going to turn my screen sharing off. I can figure out how. And I'm going to move my laptop. So throwing out is a practice where we're going to release and let go of physical tension through the body. And when we let go of physical tension in the body, we let go of mental tension in the mind as well. So we're going to start with shaking the right hand. And if you're doing this along with me, then really put some effort into this. The more we put into this, the more we get out of it, as with anything else in life. So now shake the left, and then the right, and the left. And then we're shaking to the right, up and down, right the way down the body, and then over to the left, and up, and shaking all around. And then we're going to thinking about anything that's causing us stress or negativity. And we're going to catch all that negativity up, breathe in, and release. And again, shaking all around. And breathe in. And release. And one more time. Really go for it this time. Really shaking hard. Breathe in. And release. And then with your eyes closed, let the arms swing at the side. And then holding the arms steady. And just relaxing the body. Feeling that tension releasing from the body. Feeling the mind quietening, calming. And then open the eyes again. Now I'm going to come back to my little perch on my sofa. And I hope that you're feeling good after doing that. I know I am. And I feel like I've let go of some tension and some stress, and I'm feeling a lot calmer. So I'm going to end the workshop here now. I'm going to it doesn't look as if there's anybody on here at the moment, but I am very conscious of the fact that I said that I would give away a book. So what I'm going to do, I've got, actually, yeah, okay, I'll close that. Yeah, what I'll do, I'm going to, oh, stop. I'm going to go through the list. I'm gonna put the names of all the people who signed up for this webinar into a hat, and I will draw out a name from that hat to share a book with, and somebody will get a free copy of my book. My book is called Bent Back into Shape, Beating Addiction Through Yoga, and it's available on Amazon. So I've had great reviews of it, and if you're not one of the lucky, or if you're not the lucky winner, then please do consider buying it. It's I've had some amazing feedback from people who've read it, actually. People who've told me that they've read it and it has profoundly impacted on their lives, and is really helping them to step into an alcohol-free life, which is just wonderful, that's why I wrote the book. So yeah, the book is available online. I am available to contact if you would like to work with me. I offer one-to-one coaching, and there will be a range of other products available as well. So this is me over and out. I'm going to just get up my contact details onto my slide to show you. And so here are my contact details if you would like to get in touch with me. So here I am on Twitter, on Facebook, and my website. Recovery Pathfinders is my Facebook group where you can find me, and that's still a very new group, but I'm hoping that it becomes a very vibrant, supportive, happy space for people to share their questions, their joys, their struggles, their experiences in recovery, where we can support one another. So please do get in touch, and I will hopefully I will be in touch again soon. So have a lovely weekend, lovely Friday evening, and a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon. Om Shanti and peace and love to everybody. Bye.